Cheerio. I hope everyone's well. I will tell you, here just outside of Washington, D.C., October something, Halloween's near, we have a freeze warning tonight. I mean, I'm shocked. I have to bring my plants inside. Anyway, so Patricia or Leslie Van Houten was granted parole for the third time, I believe, fourth time. And Governor Gavin Newsome, he's the governor in California. He's got greasy, slicked back hair. He sits very feminine with his legs crossed, and he even puts a little arm down. Very, very feminine. But he said no. So she's staying in. And I don't understand why Gavin Newsome's wife doesn't talk to him about the hair. You know, Pete Hegseth does the same thing. He's got a little too much grease in the hair. Same with the dude that's running for AG in Virginia. The other dude running for AG in Virginia sent some text saying that he wanted his opponent murdered. He wanted the children murdered. He knows the children as well. And someone said, oh, that's a little harsh. And he wrote back, no, he's serious. I don't know if he wished, he said, I wish I could shoot him. It's a little crazy. Anyway, so I really just wanted to talk about Leslie Van Houten and her parole being denied. But then I started, I was going to give a little background. I started looking into Susan Atkins, and she had quite an interesting life. I would assume everyone here knows about the Manson murders. 1969, Charles Manson lived on some abandoned movie ranch. I think it was the Spawn Ranch. And he had many followers, and they did lots and lots of drugs. And he convinced these followers that there was going to be a war, man on man, obviously, between the blacks and the whites. It was called Helter Skelter. And so these murders were in hope. He convinced the people that these murders would begin the war. Now, Manson was a little bit of a nut job himself, so I'm not sure if he truly believed it would begin the war or if he just told them that so they would go kill someone. But, the first night they went up into, I think it's called Copper Canyon, some part of California, and they took out 5 people. One of them was Sharon Tate. She was an actress at the time. She also happened to be pregnant, which was even worse. Her hairdresser was there. But then Abigail Folger was there, and she was the heiress to the coffee fortune. So, she wasn't going to have to work a day in her life. And apparently they caught her out in the yard running, and she begged for her life. There was a dude in the guest house that lived through that. But the reason they went to that house, so Manson wanted to be a musician, and he had met with someone famous. I don't remember who it was. It was someone like David Crosby. I do not remember though. And that person told him, yeah, you're great. And I think that the producer had lived in that house, or maybe that person had lived in that house. You know me. Well, come on, it was 56 years ago. And that person had moved out of that house, and someone else had moved into that house. And so I think it was Sharon Tate's house. She and her husband, who was over in Europe, having sex with 13-year-old girls. And do you know that one of the 13-year-old girls now makes the statement that he didn't really SA me. It's kind of creepy. But so he picked that house hoping that the producer or that singer, whomever it was there. And they weren't. So he took out 5 people. And then I'm not sure, I think it was the very next night, they drove to a different part of Los Angeles, still, an upper middle class neighborhood. And they took out the LaBiancas, Rosemary, and someone, maybe Victor, LaBianca. They owned a grocery store, so they were doing okay. And they were just sitting in their home, chilling, watching television, and whack, took them out. Anyway, the reason that these people were caught was because Susan Atkins, who was one of the people involved, was arrested for something else. And while she was sitting in the LA County jail, she was bragging to the other inmates, running her mouth, telling them that she and her friends had done all these murders. And of course, those inmates went right to the jailers, and those inmates were probably taken care of because of that. Just like, you remember they went to Katie LaBianca and said, honey, just tell us the truth and we'll let you out. You'll be out by tomorrow night. They were honest. They said, you won't be able to be released tonight, but you will be out to have dinner with your family tomorrow night. And she said, no. And now, when is she going to be released from prison? In a pine box. Anyway, so that's how they were caught. Everyone was arrested. Everyone was convicted. The prosecutors became famous. Vincent Bugliosi and Stephen Kay. They're on all the crime shows. Just like the woman Marcia Clark, who did OJ's trial. There's a guy, Matt Murphy, in San Diego. He did the trial of those. There was an actor in California who was transsexual as well. And he told these two people he was going to buy their boat. And so, but he wanted a test drive, of course. And they went out on the boat. And he ended up he and some other people went out and tied these people up to their anchor and threw them overboard. What an absolutely horrendous way to die. But he was busted. Skylar, something was his name. So all the Manson people were locked up in 1969. Susan Atkins apparently found God in 1974. And I'm not mocking her. Everyone has a different relationship with God. But apparently even the prison said that it seemed legit. She helped 2 inmates not unalive themselves. The prison gave her some good credit. In 1977, she wrote a book. And I'm not sure if at that time it was illegal to profit off of your own crime. It was you probably still could. And there were a couple mass murderers who were, and so Congress finally did something about that. Now that I say that, I'm not really sure it's a state by state or a national issue, a federal issue. I don't really know. I should have looked it up. Okay, but anyway, in 1981, Susan was married to an alleged millionaire. She happened to be his 36th wife. Well, why don't you take a guess what happened to that marriage? They ended up getting divorced because it turns out he was trying to marry someone else, which would have made him a bigamist. What awful. Well, in 1987, so that was 1981, she was divorced by 1982. In 1987, she married a Harvard graduate, attorney. I remember he was 12 years younger than her. And from what I understand, this was true love. Well, he was still married to her on the day she died. But he represented her twice, in some of the court cases. And then I noticed in the later court cases, it was a different attorney. So either it was getting a little too emotional for him. I'm not really sure. So in 2007, so you realize in 2007, she and the attorney, the Harvard guy, have been married for 20 years. Good for them. Now, I will say, back in those days in California, you received conjugal visits. And you received multiple visits a year. Now, if you were naughty and had, write-up reports in the jail or in the prison, you would lose those privileges. But you have conjugal visits. You're not going to mess that up. You know that there's some prisons that allow inmates to have cats. And I saw an interview with the warden, and they asked about, what do you have to do to get a cat, and what do you have to do to have the cat taken away? And the warden said, we've noticed that the write-ups have decreased dramatically because of the cats. Guys want to earn a cat, most of them. But B, the guys who have a cat, they don't want to lose that cat. And so the crime inside the, the prison dropped huge. Not even just the crime, but just boys being mean to each other. So 2007, I told you, she asked for a medical release, a compassionate release is what it's called. And they gave her the big thumbs down, no. Well, in 2008, she appeared at a hearing, and what do you know? She had her left leg amputated. Do you know that Meghan Markle has a sixth toe? My best friend, Meghan Markle, has a sixth toe on her left foot. If you Google Meghan Markle's left foot, you'll see it. She's wearing these odd sandal things that probably were $1,300. I made a meme about it. You never know, my meme may be featured. Anyway, it turned out it was released in 2008 that our girl had brain cancer. She again asked for a compassionate release. She had brain cancer, she had her left leg amputated, and she could barely speak and was paralyzed on the other side of her body. And she asked to be released, which means her family, she's married, her family and her supporters are now going to take over her medical bills. And the governor at the time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, do you know that's a very hard name to spell? Just sit down and try to write Schwarzenegger. And what's it called? Phonetics? It doesn't work out as well. He said no. Well, at that point, the state had already spent $1.5 million on her medical bills. They had also spent $300,000 having a guard stand in front of her door at the hospital room. A woman who has no left leg, it's not even below the knee. She has no left leg. The right side's paralyzed. She can barely speak. And they were spending They were spending $300,000 a year to guard here. Hello, that's not ridiculous. But got Arnold Schwarzenegger, well, he did his little accent. No, So then Patricia Krenwinkle was another one of the women. Actually, I'm gonna go to her last. Leslie Van Houten. Did I mess this up? No. Leslie Van Houten. There were 3 women. She was very, very pretty. She had been the homecoming queen in high school. She came from a very upper middle class family, and she was just rebelling. And she went out on the streets and happened to meet this group of people. Now, I'm not justifying, but she came from a very good background. I could find nothing about Susan Atkins' background. But Leslie was actually paroled in 2023. And I'm sure I heard about it at the time. I do not remember that. So she had 52 years in prison. If you try to find her at all right now, completely hidden, which is good. That's what she needed to do. I'm sure there were some nut jobs who put a threat on her life, but that's exactly what she had supporters, so she's living an okay life right now. Now, this was the entire reason for my video. Patricia Krenwinkle. Okay, Patricia Krenwinkle. I'm very sorry, guys. Patricia Krenwinkle. Please hurry up. Damn it. Patricia Krenwinkle was one of those women who was not hit with the ugly tree or the ugly branch. She was hit with the entire tree. Very, very unattractive. She even had she had Dorothy Hamill hair, but it wasn't cute like Dorothy Hamill hair. Patricia had graduated high school, but she had a very excessively hairy body. So she was extremely self-conscious about that. I'm sorry for snapping at him. I'm a little salty about something else. But so she didn't have friends well, didn't make friends well. She happened to meet Manson, and I looked to see how did she meet Manson. I could not find it. But he was wonderful to her. He said, "You're beautiful. Don't think about that hair. God put it there for a reason." And she fell in love with him. Well, they did all have relations together, but I think she fell in love with him more as she idolized him, maybe. And they did all get naked together. And the drugs that can help you as well. But as of right today, Patricia is the longest. She is the woman who has been in a California prison the longest. And she's a Chowchilla. I've always thought that was a really cool name, Chowchilla. But so she was really up for parole. Again, she had support. She had family support. So she was not going to be a burden to the state. I'll tell you something about Sharon Tate's sister in a moment. And Gavin Newsome stood up and said, no, don't let her out. Now, Sharon Tate's sister, she's the only remaining family member, has been to all of these hearings. There's been 50 or 60 hearings for all these people. And remember, Tex Watson was down in Texas. I assume that's her full-time job. I hope some PAC or something is, I guess not a PAC, but I hope some nonprofit at least gives her money if she needs it to do all this stuff. She's gone to all these and said, no, don't let these people out. My sister and her baby didn't have a chance. Yeah, I agree with that. But some people I feel like genuinely have repented. Thank goodness I'm not the decision maker. The sister made a comment about Susan Atkins that, well, she was going to go and be judged by God. Well, that's exactly correct. She has been judged by God. I don't know how it works until Judgment Day and all that. But let this woman out of prison. So it's been she's been in prison for 56 years. She's said many, many, many times she can't believe she fell for this nonsense. Gavin Newsome allows children to go and begin taking hormone-changing drugs without their parents' knowledge. And he won't let this woman out of prison? There was an illegal alien, and this just happened, who was a truck driver. And I've seen the video of it. It'll make you sick. He wasn't paying attention. He's up on a highway. Traffic's all coming to slowing down. And he smashes into the little car in front of him. It's a small SUV. Look like I have a Chevy Equinox. It makes your heart sinks when you see it. You know where that illegal alien is who killed 3 people? He was taken to the jail, just like anyone would be. And then he was released. No bond. And now the guy has an ICE detainer. He's not going to show up for his court date for the car accident. And Gavin Newsome is allowing that guy to walk free. But he's not allowing Patricia Krenwinkle to get out. That's nonsense. Maybe the grease has gone to his... I don't know. I don't believe he really has brain cells. Okay, if you're still watching right now, I'm totally shocked. Thank you. Let me know how you feel about this stuff below. God bless you. God bless America. And I am sorry I snapped it, so don't hold it against me. Hit like, hit subscribe. Toodaloo.